Make sure you don't lose the hall passes. You got to have a hall pass. That's something I'm going to be a stickler on this 9 weeks too, because you guys have been taking advantage of me a little bit, wanting to go to the bathroom all the time.
Hey, you let us.
I know, that's all I'm saying. I'm not going to do it anymore. So you got 2 hall passes. Don't waste them. Don't lose them. Third 9 weeks, new 9 weeks. Matt, what's your grade for the third 9 weeks? Third 9 weeks. No.
100.
Thank you. I'd never ever ask you to tell everybody in the room. I'm not going to embarrass you by you telling what your actual grade is for a 9 weeks unless it's a what?
100.
100. Elijah, I don't believe for a minute that your 2 numbers came up right together. Really? I should have checked the numbers first, shouldn't I?
What are you looking at us for?
Okay, just because we spent minutes trying to figure out what numbers meant what to go with each other.
There wasn't no chance of figuring it out because I just put them randomly on the seating
That's what I
chart.
figured.
You know, he had what? You had 3, I had 4, and I had 5. Colby had 2.
Yeah, I was gonna do something else where I was gonna do like symbols and stuff, and you had to figure out the symbol. Otherwise, I would do your seat. But then,
Too much work.
there wasn't enough symbols. Prop stats, there's plenty of symbols. In this class, there wasn't quite enough to.
Dollar sign.
That's a $sign for cents, stuff like APR, stuff like that. But I can only come up with about 15 and need like 22 or something. So, what we're going to cover this chapter: sales tax and purchase price. This matters to absolutely no one, right? Simon never goes out and buys anything, so he doesn't have to worry about sales tax or purchase prices or nothing.
What is this sales tax?
What?
Sales tax.
That's, might want to get out some stuff, start writing.
7% for every dollar.
I'll find out here in a few minutes.
Pretty sure that's what it is.
So what we're going to do is be able to compute sales tax, be able to figure out tax. Nothing's more fun than you walk into Walmart and get behind a person. This happened to me the other day. They're counting out money and they don't have enough because they didn't think about tax. And then they go say, well, and they're standing there looking through their bags. Here, take this off. Here, take this off. I'm like, all right, lady. Now I came in here to get a pop and a bag of chips, and you're doing all this crap. And I learned something. Ohio's sales tax, and we're going to talk about it in a few minutes. Anybody know what Ohio's sales tax, the state sales tax is?
7 cents on the dollar.
That's what everybody thinks. That's not the case. All right? Ohio has a set sales tax, and then each county adds on stuff on top of that. And we're going to talk about how that's set up. So there's not only a sales tax, but then there's a local tax. And in Ohio, we go by counties. Now, there could also be not only counties, you could have a city that adds on a tax also. Now, Ohio does put a limit on how much. So just because Matt becomes mayor of New Paris and says, hey, everything we sell in New Paris, I'm putting a 10% tax on because I need to make more money. That's not going to work. There's a limit. what kind of things, different states are different ways. So living right here on the border of Ohio and Indiana, it sort of screws everything up. Because Indiana does things completely different than Ohio. Is everything taxed? Is there a tax on everything when you go to buy it?
Here or there?
Here.
Yeah. I don't really do a lot of shopping.
Not everything.
What kind of things aren't taxed in Ohio? Food. Now, you gotta go, what's considered food? That drink that Caleb's drinking considered food? It used to be, not anymore.
Fast food is taxed still.
Now, when it's fast food, is it taxed?
Yes.
I mean, at Subway, we tax still, but this is pretty sure, yeah.
It's food, it's not supposed to be taxed. What's taxed? When you buy something fast food, what are they actually charging you tax for?
Your drink.
Use of the facility. So that's why if you go to McDonald's or somewhere like that, nobody does it anymore. But it used to be that they'd always ask you what?
Here they go.
Here to go.
That's what he said.
Now, I don't think anybody hardly does it anymore. I don't know. I don't go, I guess.
I mean, there's like a little pop-up.
Who does?
Dairy Queen.
Do they?
There's like a little pop-up thing at Subway, but I don't ever ask anybody. I don't really care.
So you just tax everybody. That's awful nice.
No,
of
I
you.
just say to go. I don't.
That's awful nice of you that you just tax everybody. All right. So then if you say to go, then there should be no tax.
Yeah, there's not.
So if you eat something at a fast food place, you get taxed because you're using their facility. If you take it to go, now when I was growing up, it used to be a big deal because when I was your guys' age and I was broke all the time, I'd go into McDonald's or Burger King or somewhere like that, and I'd always say to go because I knew that they taxed it otherwise, and that'd save me a few cents. And then I'd sit down and eat it, and they'd get all mad, come out and say, "Hey, you said it was to go, get out."
So me and my dad here.
Now they probably won't do that. All
Where's the
right.
proof?
What other things? What kind of things aren't taxed in Ohio? So if I go to the store today, what could I buy that wouldn't have a tax on it? Water. Now how come water, if that drink is taxed, how come water is not taxed?
Because you need water to live.
It's a necessity.
All right, it's a necessity. What else isn't taxed? Or what else is taxed? Give me just different items that you might go to the store to get.
Chocolate milk.
Chocolate milk, is it taxed? Nope, it's considered a food. What else? Just shout out anything. Let's,
Clothes,
Candy cane.
what kind of clothes?
shirts.
Shirts. They taxed? Yeah. Candy canes. Somebody said candy canes. They taxed?
That's considered a food.
I think so. Now you might check on some of this because even like candy bars, I don't think are taxed. A few years ago they changed it. What else do you, if you're looking at the candy bars on the shelves? Gum. A few years ago, gum wasn't taxed, and guess what they started doing? Taxing it. Same thing with, well, when I say a few years ago, it didn't have all the energy drinks and everything like that back then, but the pop and stuff was considered a food, and now it's not anymore. What other things? Just makes it hard on Nathan when he goes to the store because now he's trying to keep a running track in his brain. All right, how much am I spending here? And then he's got to think, okay, is this taxed? Is it not taxed? And he gets up there and, oh crap, I went over by $2. He doesn't have that extra money. What other things? Give me something else. Whether it's taxed or not, I don't care, just
Gas.
gas. Is gas taxed? Yeah. Pizza rolls. Pizza rolls taxed? No.
Paper.
How about paper?
Tax probably.
It's taxed.
Well, that's
State of
cool.
Ohio does what every year though?
It's out of school, or not out of school, but.
Right, they have a, what is it, like a weekend or something where you can buy any school supplies
It's not taxed.
and there's no tax on them. How about stuff like, stuff like antacids that I take every morning before I come in here to deal with Nathan. Every other morning, I guess. Like a medicine.
Probably not. No?
Yeah.
I'd say no.
I mean, it would be.
That's one of the things that's different in a lot of states, all right? Some states don't tax medicines, and I can't remember Ohio now because they've changed a couple of times back and forth. Some states don't tax any kind of medical things, aspirin, Tylenol, stuff like that. They don't tax them. Other states do. Now, the bad thing is, and you guys can handle this, right, because we're young adults here. A few years ago, stuff like Viagra was not taxed. And a lot of the female sex got upset because their personal hygiene products were taxed. So they weren't too happy that men were getting Viagra without any tax on it, but the stuff that they actually have to have was getting taxed. So I'm not sure now how that ever played out. I never really paid a whole lot of attention because I didn't buy either one, so it didn't really affect me. But so when you run into that, you run into what's considered a medical or medicine or some kind of medical device and what's not. So if you go buy like an ace bandage, if Alex ever sees the basketball court, and I don't mean the view from
The bridge.
I'm just kidding with you. So, if Alex gets on the court and he hurts himself, then, if I remember, oh, Ben, it says right here then. Your stuff's right there. That's what it says.
Yeah.
He gets on the court, he goes to buy an ace bandage because he hurt his knee.
Actually happened.
Huh?
That actually happened. That's when he went.
Is that something that is going to be taxed? Is it considered medical? Is it not considered medical? Different states treat it different ways. You got to know in your state. What other kinds of sales tax? You buy a car. Is there sales tax on it? Yeah.
If you buy it from a dealership.
You buy it from a dealership for sure. If you buy it from anybody, there's supposed to be sales tax. What happens? A lot of the times.
They don't tax.
They're always going to tax you because when you go in,
Oh, you gotta get your title.
you got to get the title
and
switched
then-
over, right?
Yeah.
Now, a lot of times, especially for you guys probably, who's got a car? So Lane, where'd you get your car from?
I bought it off of someone.
Bought off someone? Who'd you buy it off of?
A friend.
A friend?
Yeah.
So when you went in to get your title switched over,
Oh, it cost me
it cost you a bunch?
like
See,
$100.
then your friend screwed you. Because what happens a lot of times when you take that title in to get it switched over? What do you put down for the price of the car that you paid for?
They look at the value, they raise it for
So if you go in there pay tax on it. How much did you pay for it?
I think it was like 140,
No, I mean, how much did you pay for the car?
3,000.
$3,000. So you had to pay whatever sales tax is on that $3,000. What could have made how much sales tax that you had to pay lower?
If you would've just put like $1 or something. That's what my, yeah, that's what my dad did when he gave me my car. He just put-
Exactly, when a relative or somebody gives you a car or sells you a car, then when you go in there, a lot of times they put $1. Would you, well, I just gave it to them. Even if they didn't just give it to you, even if they charged you for it, put that $1, because then all you gotta do is pay tax on that $1, which is 7 or 8 cents. All right, and if you're buying it off somebody else, and they don't want the county to know that they're selling a whole bunch of stuff, they'll do that same thing, because they don't want to pay taxes on the money you just gave them, and then it works out for you, because you don't want to pay taxes on that either.
So we're just evading the taxes.
So they're evading.
Does this count as tax evasion?
Now,
Like
now
in
if you
jail?
get caught doing it, you could get in trouble, there's fines and everything else. And with something like a car or motorcycle or whatever, they're gonna confiscate it. All right, so you could get in trouble for it, but, property, if you buy property, same idea. Tax, sales tax on it, you gotta pay the county a certain sales tax. Now with property, the county's a little more strict about it, because it's a little easier for them to prove. You can't go in and say, oh yeah, I sold it to them for $1. They're not gonna believe that you sold them 50 acres for $1. And so they're probably gonna check it out a little more. Whereas with a car, most of the time they'll just say, because they know they can't prove it, they'll just let it pass by. Sales receipt, total purchase price. Be able to get through these. When you get a sales receipt from a store after you buy stuff, what usually happens to it?
Gets thrown away.
Gets thrown away.
They ask you if you want it first.
Right, now they ask you if you want it, so they don't have to waste the paper, because they know everybody just throws it away. You should look at it. All right, look at it and make sure that everything on it, what you got and what you thought it was, especially with stuff now. You go into Kroger, and what's Kroger have all the time? Nobody ever goes to Kroger?
No.
So you go to Kroger and they have stuff where you buy 5 items and you get $5 off, or you buy 10 items and they're $1 each and stuff like that. All those different things. You need to look at it and make
5
sure,
for 5 or something like that.
right, make sure that things are coming up the way that you thought they were.
I don't like the lady who checks my receipt at Walmart. It gives me dirty looks.
I went to Kroger the other day, spent $80. It's like $85. Ended up actually paying 51, I think, because all I went in there for was the stuff that was, like they had Ice Mountain Water, 3 for $10. Can't remember what else. Banquet dinners, those banquet dinners were marked down from like $7.99 to $5.99, so you save $2 on each one. And so I end up saving like $35 on an $80 purchase. Your total purchase price, with your total purchase price, a lot of students mess this up. And not just students, because I've seen people walking into the line, and there for a while, I think they've sort of done away with them. There for a while, a lot of the department stores had calculators that you could borrow, or they were hooked to the cart and you could use. I think they've done away with them because people were using them and getting the wrong numbers and thinking that they spent $10 and they actually spent $50. But your total purchase price is the total selling price plus the sales tax. You've got to remember, especially if we take a test over this stuff, if we're figuring up, and we're going to do a couple of problems here, if we're figuring up the sales tax and you get that answer, that's not how much you're going to pay. That's what's added on to the price of the items that you're buying. So sales tax, when you're figuring up sales tax, it's just the selling price times the tax rate. Remember, with the tax rate, you always move the decimal how many places? How many places you move the decimal over for a percent?
1.
Yeah.
3.
2 places every time. Make sure. Some of you on the exam still not moving the decimal the right number of places. Change a percent to a decimal, move it 2 places to the left. So a bunch of you have said that Ohio's sales tax is 7%. How would we change that to a decimal?
0.07.
Got to make sure you bump it over 2 places. Again, on the exam, a whole bunch of you were bumping over to just 0.7. Got to make sure you bump it over 2 places. Your total purchase price, how much you're going to pay, is the total selling price, so how much all the items cost, plus the sales tax. One step on it, get it all dirty. Handle all that, Elijah? Are you lying to me? Haley, you with me this 9 weeks? You sure? Please. Look around the room. Look around there, everybody. Do I need Haley adding to my troubles? These are different sales taxes. I think I got this chart last year. Some of them have changed. I think Indiana just changed theirs, but I think it's still 7%. But I think what Indiana did is they went to something, I think, if I'm wrong, I'm telling you right now, I could be wrong, all right? So don't go out and say, oh, Ebersole said. Just because Ebersole said doesn't mean it's always true. I think what Indiana did is they used to have it set up like Ohio, where you have your state tax, and then you have your county taxes, and the 2 of them get added together to get the total sales tax for that area. I think Indiana finally said, no, it's going to be 7% across the board now. So every county is 7%. So it's not different from one county to the next. Ohio, where's Ohio at? Ohio, right here, sales tax 5.75. All right? Now, a lot of you were saying, no, it's like 7%. You're sort of right. Ohio's sales tax is 5.75%. But in Preble County, Darke County, Montgomery County, whatever county you go to, that might change a little bit. And that's what this next slide shows. In Ohio, the set sales tax is 5.75%. The state allows each county to add up to 2.25%. So if Matt becomes mayor of, Matt becomes mayor of Preble County,
I'm leaving.
I would too, probably, but he could jack it up to 2.25% so that he could have more money coming in.
I'd be the most hated mayor.
Preble County actually adds, as of right now, 1.5%. So how would we find the total tax that if you go to Nickel Saver, I don't know, is it still called Nickel Saver?
No, that's what
It's what?
It's nickel saver.
It's nickel saver.
It's still Nickel Saver?
it is.
So if you go to Nickel Saver today, what's the total tax that you're gonna pay? How would we find that? What do you do with those 2%? Add them together. That's a 1. So how much tax you gonna pay? You go to buy a pop and a candy bar. What percentage of tax you gonna pay? 7.25. In Preble County. Wherever you buy something in Preble County, that's gonna be the tax rate.
Oh, so the taxes in, like, Wayne County are lower.
See, taxes in Wayne County,
They're just flat out just 7.
7%. It's just flat right now. Again, I think Indiana just changed where Wayne County maybe used to add extra stuff on there, and I think Indiana changed it and said, no, everybody's gonna be a flat 7%. Now, it could be that
I don't know.
of that 7%, the state takes 5%, and then the county keeps 2% or something. You know, there's probably some separation of funds in there somehow. So would it be cheaper to go to Nickel Saver and buy something, or go down to
Speedway.
something right across the border over here, some little gas station? Be a little
Oh, the
cheaper,
marathon, like right there.
be 1/4% cheaper as far as the tax goes to go towards Indiana. Where do you work at?
I work at the gas stations.
At Nickel Saver?
Yeah, I work there.
When you're doing these problems, and these problems aren't real difficult, this says Jacob purchased a used car for $8,430. The state tax rate is 5.5%, county tax rate is 1%. Whenever you're doing any of these problems, first thing you gotta do, get the total tax rate. So we're gonna take 5.5 plus 1. Usually you always change a percent to a decimal, but to start off here, you don't have to do that.
6.5.
So the total tax rate is just 6.5%. How about your calculator so you can help me figure this? All you're gonna do once you have that, is this what Lane's car looks like?
No.
They paid $3,000 for?
It's 700.
They seen him coming, didn't they? Just leave it there right there, because otherwise I'll. 6.5%, how do I change that to a decimal? How many places? Somebody help me out. 8,430 times 0.065.
Five, four, seven, point nine five.
Say it again.
547.95. 95.
Is that? I wrote it backwards. Does everybody agree with that?
Yeah.
So, you went to buy this car, you paid $8,430 for it, is that all it cost you? It cost you another $550 to pay taxes on it. So the car actually cost you about $9,000 total. What else do you still have to get for the car before you can put it on the road?
License plates,
You gotta get the plates, the tags, and stuff like that.
and then your name, or the title change.
You gotta get the,
your name.
you'll have to pay some kind of fee to get the title switched over. But this is just the tax. Not the total amount you paid for the car, just the tax. Rocky Graves purchased 7 packages of golf balls for $12.50 each, a box of tees for $3.95, a 9-iron for $179.99. He must pay a sales tax, or I'm sorry, state tax of 7%, county tax of 0.5%, and a city tax of 1.3%. What's the total tax gonna be for Rocky here?
8.8%.
8 point what?
8.
8? Everybody agree with that? We add that number, and that number, does that come up to be 8.8? What do we do to that 8.8 again?
Turn it into a decimal.
What is it as a decimal?
8.
Now, what are we gonna multiply that by? We gonna multiply by each one of these separately?
No, just add them all up.
Add them all up. So have your calculators out so you can help me with this again.
I got it.
Is it just gonna be 1250?
No. 179.
What do we gotta do that with that? Times that by 7, because he bought 7 of those, right? What's the next number? 395 plus, what else did he buy? $179.99.
So first you times 7, 1250.
So if you punch this into your calculator just this way, if you have a calculator that prints across the screen, you punch it in just like that with the parentheses and everything, it'll do all the math for you. Or you could punch in 7 times 1250, hit equals, then plus this, then plus that.
271, 44.
Anybody else get $271.44?
Yeah.
So Rocky walks up to the counter with $275 in cash. Is that gonna be enough to pay for it? $275.
Yeah.
What haven't we figured yet?
No, we didn't actually.
We haven't figured up the tax yet, have we? So we gotta take that number times. If you do this right, this number's already in your calculator, and all you gotta do is hit times that number. What's that give you? $23.88?
Yeah.
What's that number?
Then we'll add
That's how much
tax we're gonna
tax you're gonna pay.
on top of the 270.
Now, so if he walks up there with $275, is he gonna have enough to pay for it?
No.
No. How about if he walks up there with $300, 3 $100 bills?
Yeah.
How would we figure out to be sure? What would you do with these two?
2388 to the 270.
Just add those two. Now let's go back, because maybe we should have thought about this first. Are golf balls gonna be taxed?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, probably. How about golf tees?
Yep.
How about the 9-iron?
Yeah.
That's not a necessity, you don't have to have a 9-iron? Really? Alex, everybody needs a 9-iron, don't they? They don't? Alright. Susan decided to decorate her office. She purchased a lamp for $129.99, a picture for $195.50, and a pen and pencil tray for $19.50. State tax is 6.5%. City tax is 2.5%. What's the total tax? First of all, what's the total tax rate? 9%. What's that as a decimal? What are we gonna do with all these numbers again? Are they all taxable?
Yes.
So add them all up, what do you get? So I don't have to write it all down here.
Oh, so
So we're gonna add this, and that, right?
Mr. Ebersole,
Yep.
for like, if we have.
No, Lane, the picture's not edible,
No.
so it's
No.
gotta be taxed.
I'm asking, so if there's like a test and like, say they're like buying like products to food and you don't, and if we do end up taxing them, we get like $100.
Yeah.
Oh, so we kinda have to know what's. Okay.
And I would tell you, probably in the problem, food is not taxable. Anybody get the total? $0.99? Is that our answer?
No, that's how much
That's how much the total price was
without the tax on it.
without tax. Now we gotta figure up the tax. Say it again. That's the tax. That's the answer they wanted here. What else? How could you figure up her total cost?
Add it on to the 344.
Add those two together. Make sure you read the problem carefully and know what they're asking you.
It's like,
All these, I just wrote down what is the total tax.
like see it versus be like.
That's right, that. John Webb purchased an electric drill from the hardware store and gave the clerk a $50 bill. He received $11.53 in change. If the sales tax is 7%, find the total selling price. What's probably the first thing that you're gonna figure out here?
Subtract 1153 by 50.
So 50 minus 1153. Somebody help me out with that.
I got it.
3847? What's that? What's 3847?
That's how much he paid.
That's the total cost. All right, total selling price, whatever it is. Is that how much the drill cost?
No.
No, that's the total selling price with the drill, the cost of the drill plus the tax.
So then when we divide, when we turn the 7% to a decimal or?
So the total tax is 7%. Well, 7% is what is a decimal? All right, so let's do that. Let's see, how would we find his total selling cost? Total cost should be what? Cost of the drill plus what? Plus the tax?
Oh, we're adding.
How can we do this? Do we know the cost?
Oh, yeah, there's.
Do we know this cost? We know the total, which is 3847. Simon, I'm gonna move you out in the hallway. I thought moving you. So Haley, I apologize. If you're talking to yourself, then everybody else shouldn't be able to hear you, Simon. Grab that calculator and use it to help me out. Talk to me. Do we know the cost of the drill? So I'm just gonna make that cost.
Was.
Now, we can't just put plus tax here because we're not doing ourselves any good. So 0.07, is it just 0.07? How would you find the tax? If we knew the cost of the drill, how would you find the tax? You'd multiply it, wouldn't you? That's what we've been doing this whole time. We'd multiply it by the cost of the drill, right? Well, we just said the cost of the drill is just cost, right? So let's just put 0.07 times cost. Maybe for some of you, this would help, because I see a lot of blank looks out there. Let's do this. When you don't know something in algebra, what do you make it? So if we don't know the cost of the drill, we just make that X. It's the same thing over here, isn't it? What were you saying? It's the same. What'd you say? It's the same regardless? It doesn't. How many X's do we have here? What's the number in front of this X?
What?
You add those two together, what do you get? Don't make this any harder than it is. I know it looks, oh, you do those math every so. I had a student last year, and I know I've said this many times, every time I change something into algebra like this, they throw a big fit. Why are you gonna do that? That's stupid. You can stick X's in there. But you guys seem like you might be better off with it this way. What do I do to solve here? How do I get X by itself? Divide both sides by, if it just said this, if it just said 3X on that side and 50 on this side,
Divided by 3.
you divide by 3, right? So you divide by what on both sides? 1.07. I can't write it down that low. So somebody help me out. What's 38.47 divided by 1.07?
35.95.
Now this is another thing that bothered me on your exams. You should make sure that your answer makes sense, right? Looking back at this problem. Old John there, he purchased the drill. And it cost him, we said that it cost him how much? The drill cost how much? $35.95. He ended up paying how much total? $38.47. So that means there was about $2 or $3 in tax. Does all that make sense? Does it make sense for the drill to be $36? Yeah. Does it make sense for there to be $2 or $3 worth of tax? Yeah, it seems to make sense.
Would it be 269 tax?
I don't know, is it? How can we figure out this? Again, this is what? That's the cost of the drill, just the drill. If for some reason, and some of you need to know this, some reason John walks up there, and a lot of times, especially if you go into like farm and fleet or something like that, what do they ask you? That's true. Everybody asks that now. You guys don't know this, nobody ever goes in, they probably don't ask you guys because you're so young. There's old men like me, they ask all the time. I buy stuff at auctions all the time, they ask me there too. They ask you if you are tax exempt. So if you work on a farm or something, if you own a farm and you're buying stuff for your farm, you don't have to pay taxes. So if John's going in there and he owns a farm, and he's tax exempt, he's got a tax exempt number, would he have to pay those taxes?
No,
So how much would he pay for the drill?
the 35.
$35.95. Ebersole goes in there and he's not tax exempt because he doesn't own a farm and have a tax exempt number. What's he got to pay for the drill? How could we figure out how much tax Ebersole pays then? Subtract those two. And somebody did it, I think, what it come up to be. This is probably where Simon did it. Now he's not paying any attention.
35.95.
How much was it?
250.
252. Now, all they asked us for, they said, find That's 7% find the total selling price. I don't know why, this, boy, I didn't write this problem very well, because it said find the total selling price. Should have just said, not total. Should have just said find the selling price of the drill. What was the selling price of the drill? So when he looked at it there on the shelf, and it had a little sticker on it, what'd that sticker say? Said $35.95. So if he walked up there with two $20 bills, you got enough money to pay for it?
Yeah.
Yeah, even with the tax. What if he walked up there with a $20 bill, a $10 bill, a $5 bill, and a $1 bill?
No,
Unless he's tax exempt, then he would have enough. Page 255, 1 through 12 is your assignment.